Hugo Slimbrouck. Él es nacido en Bélgica y ha dedicado toda su carrera al desarrollo de la industria de la hospitalidad y de las reuniones. Se desempeñó con mucho éxito en la gestión de mercadeo y ventas en hoteles de marcas premium desde 1976 a 1995, luego de abrir el buró de convenciones en su ciudad natal, Brujas. Posteriormente se unió a la industria de los viajes de incentivo como director de una agencia mediana en Bruselas, siendo luego contratado por el grupo MCI en el 2006. Aquí participó en el desarrollo de la marca Ovation Global DMC y actualmente es responsable de toda la red mundial de socios estratégicos. Nuestro expositor es expresidente de Site y exdirector de JMIC, de Joint Meetings Industry Council. Es invitado y charlista internacional experto en temas de mercadeo de destino, seguimiento de clientes, interacción en redes sociales y nuevas tendencias de nuestra industria. Este veterano pasa aproximadamente 100 noches al año hospedado en cualquiera de los 5 continentes, compartiendo su experiencia y visión con líderes mundiales de la industria de los viajes de incentivo. El resto puede ir a dormir a la casa, pero por lo menos 100 noches al año duerme fuera de casa. Un amigo, un mentor en forma personal para mí. Saquémosle bastante provecho a Hugo Slimbrouck.
Now that you know who I am, I want to know who you are. And I want to understand who you are, so I have a little system for that. Can you associate yourself with one of these 4 figures on the screen? You choose the blue, the purple, the red, the green. So, who feels he's or she is in the purple figure? Hands up, please. Okay. The blue? Right. The green, and the star, the red one. Interesting. The people who chose for the first figure, they are the people who are, most of the times, they are in sales. They know where they want to go. They have a real drive for going somewhere, for going for their targets. The people who are in the blue, they are people like in accounting. They're very strict. They go by the figure 1 + 1 is 2, it's not 3, that's what the salespeople say. People in green are like project managers. You cannot stress them. The good ones, you cannot stress them. They will go for it. And the people who chose for the red star, just like me, they're just in sex, drugs, and rock and roll, that's all. So, now I want to know who you really are. So, who in this room is working in the hotel industry? Who's with hotels? Okay. DMCs? Okay. Jesus, you have a lot of DMCs in this country. Convention bureau? Airline? Venues? The lady in red said venues, or she was explaining something? A convention bureau. Okay, good. Now I understand where you come from. I'll use the clicker. That's going to be easier. Okay. What we want to do today is look at creative incentive design, and as everything evolves, also the creation of incentive programs evolves very much. So we're looking at what clients really want to experience. And we will pick up on some of the trends as well in incentive travel today. So the new incentive principle is really about reverse thinking and engineering. Let me take you through that a little bit. In the past, it was like the marketing director, together with a travel agent, that used to create an incentive program. And most of the times it was the managing director of a company who decided where to go. Or rather, it was his wife who decided where to go. Then she told her husband, and that's where we go for the next time. But nowadays, it's really the participants to an incentive program who decide what they want to experience, who decide where they want to go. So experience is really becoming the new battlefield for incentive destinations and service providers. This is where you need to operate. When I started in the mid-80s in Marbella in Spain, in the 5-star hotel, incentive was all about luxury experiences. Lobster, caviar, champagne, there was never enough of that. But that has changed. Nowadays it's more about experiences. And this is what we're going through in this presentation. You used to go to a shop and buy a phone and then come back for it. Apple has changed this. Buying a phone has become a complete experience on its own. This is the new shop in Brussels that opened last year. It's a complete new experience of buying a device. And maybe they do not buy it in the shop itself, they will buy it online later on, but there they can experience the feeling of being the owner of one of those products. Tesla Motors, again, it's an experience, the way that they move forward in conquering the world now of the electric car. In so much that, for instance, already countries who are very much into green energy and sustainability have taken measures. This is actually the next picture. This is the parking of Amsterdam Schiphol Airport. There's a regulation now that half of the cars there, well, all the cars must be electrical or a combination hybrid, but half of the cars are Teslas, the other half are Toyotas. So it was the experience at the start that really brought the decision to change this. This is one of my favorite brands. Maybe you know it. Do you know it in Costa Rica or maybe? But when you go in the US nowadays, you cannot find a city anymore without a pain quotidien. In the 90s, when I worked for Hilton in Brussels, and I drove in from Bruges every morning at 6 o'clock to beat the traffic, the first pain quotidien opposite the stock exchange was where I stopped to have a coffee and a croissant. And the idea they had was to have just one central table, and everybody was sitting around that central table. The experience of having a coffee there and exchanging some early morning views with people who shared the same table was a complete new experience of having your morning coffee. This is how it looks like more recently. Actually, this is one in Paris at the Hilton Paris Opera, which just opened last year. But again, the central table is still there. That's a conversation table. Nespresso. Now you can buy them online, but in the beginning there was only one shop where you could buy espresso, and it was the whole experience of buying the espresso. Now this is what consumers are looking for to buy, but consumers are also the people in our field, the incentive participants. And the world has become much too commoditized. Everything is the same, everything looks the same, everything tastes the same. And where you can make the difference, that's where you will win. So the experience of buying a product and buying incentive travel is a new experience. So customer service has completely changed. It's the customer who builds nowadays what they want to buy. And the technique of doing this was clearly explained in a book that recently I got from a friend of mine. This is also a former colleague of mine, André Weringa from Holland. He wrote a book called Reverse journey, the reverse journey, where really they look at not from a company standpoint, what will we design, what's the next product, what's the next service that we're going to create, but they start from the other side. They start with the consumer, and it's the consumer who demands and creates the new services and products. So it's a complete new way of creating products and services. And it can only happen through interaction. And that's where we are actually very good at in our industry. Our industry is all about personal connections and interaction. So we're in a good industry to learn from this. So this phrase we came up with years ago. Our CEO of MCI came up with the phrase, when people come together, magic happens. And actually, that's what he said after a full day seminar that we had with Simon Sinek, where the questions were asked, why are you doing this? Why are you a PCO? Why are you an association management company? Why are you into destination services? It all came back to what our clients really want. To see people coming together, exchange views, and see the magic of the personal interaction happen. And that's where incentive travel design nowadays starts, from the client's perspective. So why should incentive or should corporations buy incentive programs? Incentive, and you're probably familiar with it, is extremely important to bring people to the next level. Especially when we talk about sales teams, especially in that field, it works very well. It's the motivational factor that does better than any other promotional activity that you can undertake. And why do corporations buy incentive programs? Well, here's a few reasons why they would do this. In general, they look at improving performance, recognizing performance, motivating people to work a little bit harder, reward an extra performance, improve the morale, and certainly to improve profits. But there's also very specific applications. In the beginning it was all about sales, but nowadays you will find it in marketing and in related activities. You will find it in purchasing and in safety and attendance at events, and in quality management as well. So incentive programs are now being used far beyond the pure sales organization. So what's this broader perspective that clients are looking at? They really look at the purpose of life and the business life and what they can establish. And that's where we, as an incentive community, can come into to bringing them to that next level. So for that, I'm going back to the definition of incentive travel. This is the definition that we wrote down years ago with SITE as a global organization. Incentive travel being the management tool to accomplish uncommon business goals by awarding participants an extraordinary travel experience, but only upon attainment of their share of those uncommon goals. So whenever we create an incentive program, we should keep this definition in mind, because it has all the elements. And the major element is that incentive travel is a business management tool. It's not just a gift, it's not something to just motivate people. No, there's a whole strategy, there should be a whole strategy behind incentive travel. And incentive experience design can be done in different phases. I like the 5D approach that André is suggesting in his reverse book. And the 5D approach looks at dreaming, defining, designing, directing, and then ultimately delivering. I come from a small country like you are, but we are all proud of our country. So this is our dream in Belgium. We are like the most important country in the whole of Europe. Same as you are in Central America. Yeah. You see the city of Ghent there, you had a very famous football player playing there, Rios? Ruiz? Ruiz, okay. There's some other players as well. So, when you dream about the project, when as a corporation they dream about a much higher sales and profit margin, you must dream big. Don't dream small. It's first of all, dream big. Do not think about budgets and so forth at that moment. What's the desired identity to whom it is directed? So, who do you target with this? Are you targeting your own salespeople? Are you targeting channel partners? Are you targeting consumers? So, incentives can be directed to different audiences. So it's very important that you direct to a specific audience, otherwise it becomes much too general. And in dreaming big, there must also be a sense of promise. A sense of, okay, if I work this hard, this is what I will get. So the promise is important, but also what it is and how to get there. So, the second one is defining. Define a broader ambition and mission and give it a time limit. Select that target audience that you are directing at. And explain on how you want your audience to experience the incentive. So everybody needs to be online. It's not just the participants to an incentive. It's all the stakeholders in an organization. It's the direct report with the directors of sales. It's the influence of the C-level management in an organization. Everybody must be in the same line. Everybody must see the same, must have the same vision and mission for this specific target. It's only when everybody is aligned that you will get a very positive incentive experience. So there's three major elements that you need to look at when you create an incentive, and especially when you create an incentive through the client's eyes, because you need to put yourself into their feet and into their mind. And it's those individual needs of potential participants that will create the extraordinary program. So, looking through the client's eyes, the first seminar that I ever did in 1979 with Hollandians, this was the theme of the sales seminar, through the client's eyes. Whenever you sell, whenever you try to accomplish something, see it from their perspective. They are ultimately the people who pay the profits of your organization, they pay your salary, they pay your bonus. So whatever you do in an organization, look at it through the client's eyes. In incentive travel in particular, this also means that incentives must be loyal to three principles. The first principle, they must be meaningful, motivational, and the third one, memorable. And with meaningful we mean that when you have an incentive program, you need to adapt the rules. You must have very clearly defined rules. What goes, what doesn't. They must be fair and attainable. Some people call this smart as well. But creating an incentive program with targets which are much too high is not an incentive program, it's disincentive in the end. So they must be fair, they must be attainable. Constantly, you need to communicate as well. Because effective communications and immediate feedback is necessary. An incentive program will run from a few weeks or a few months. In the past, it was up to a year. And if you only get results of it at the end, you haven't communicated enough throughout the program. So you need to constantly communicate about the incentive with your audience. Tell them where they are. If they participate in the competition, tell them where they stand. How much more they need to do to obtain the incentive. And then memorable is all about the value factors of your participants. Engagement throughout the life cycle of the program. This is where your audience will be constantly have the incentive program on top of mind. So you need to be in their dream as well. Once you created the dream of the incentive program, you constantly need to remind them where it's going. And that after the program, not only during the program, but when they are in the destination and after the program, even years after, they remember the fantastic experience of the incentive trip. The next one is design. And I thought this was a nice picture to do design. This is the most beautiful music festival in the world. It's in Belgium, of course. It's called Tomorrowland. But it's true, they have, last few years, they won the competition of the best music festival. It's a dance festival. But when you look at the design of the stages there and of the tents, it's absolutely fantastic. And this reminds me of a true incentive program. That's how it needs to look at. It must be a complete, total experience. Not during the program itself, but already from the start, from the kickoff. The communication that you're using must be extraordinary. You must also look at the possibility that people interact with each other. They can help each other. They will compete against each other maybe, but they can all try to be together on the incentive program, especially when you're talking about big teams. In the end, an incentive experience must become like a ritual, because you do not just want to have the result and the success in 1 year. You want it the next year as well. You want it to repeat. And there's a fine example of that, I talk from my own country again, but years ago already, one of my best friends was an insurance broker. And an insurance broker for Royal Belgium, which is now called AXA. And him and his wife every year went on the gold incentive from Royal Belgium. You can't imagine that they would ever go to the bigger group, the silver group, as they called it then. They wanted to be in the top 50 producers, not in the next 250 or 300 producers. And that's because of the experiences. The experience that they had every year was a fantastic experience. Not only about the destination and what they lived through the 4, 5, 6 day program there, but the connections that they made during the time, because that way they connected with all the other insurance brokers. And especially the wives of the insurance brokers connected with the other with the other wife of the insurance. So every year they wanted to be sure that they were there. And this is what I mean with the iconic or a ritual. They need to come back. They need to be in the top producers from a company perspective, but they also want to be there. They do not want to miss this. Fundamentals of incentive design. The first one is, of course, the travel experience on its own. As I mentioned before, luxury was top in the past. Nowadays, the new luxury, as I would call it, is the authentic experiences. The more authentic a program is, that's what people are really looking for. I'm very privileged for the hotel that Mauricio has chosen for me. Last time that I was here in Costa Rica, I stayed in this hotel when we had the site international conference here. This time I'm staying up in the hills there in a very unique property. Now the name escapes. Sandari. But when I checked in last night and when I went to my room and this morning when I walked back to breakfast, it's a fantastic experience. This is something that you do not forget easily. And those authentic experiences are so important in an incentive program and in the travel experience design. Of course, sun and fun are important, especially if incentives are coming from Northern Europe or coming from the northern states in the US or Canada. Everybody's looking for a bit of sunshine, so am I. And last weekend I had rain in Cartagena. Yesterday I had rain in Aruba, so I hope that the weather will be nice tomorrow. when I have a day off here in the area. But we're looking for good time. That's always something that sells well, and I think you sell that. It's less of a problem for your destination here. But also in the experience design, another trend which is very important is, as every individual in the incentive is of such an importance and has contributed to the design of it, they need more time for themselves. There used to be a time where like a 5-day incentive program, every minute of the program was planned for. They knew exactly where they had to be at a certain time. A wonderful incentive that I ran a few years ago was Anheuser-Busch, the top distributors from Anheuser-Busch in the US. Came to Belgium, came to Brussels. Half of the program was free time. But we managed that free time. We turned one of the major conference rooms at the Roccaforte Hotel, we turned that conference room into a lounge where they could taste all the Belgian beers, because it was a beer company and they're part of Stella Artois, InBev, Ambev. So they wanted to taste all the brands that we had. So we had like an InBev bar there, but also other experiences. They could have a waffle there, a fresh waffle. They could have some chocolates there. But mainly that lounge existed because it was the point where we wanted to bring them together, where they could decide together with their friends and colleagues what to do next in the afternoon or the next morning. We didn't have guided tours. We had guides who joined them in this lounge. And they could go to the guide and say, okay, I would like to see this, or I would like to have that experience. We had personal shoppers to help them find the right streets, the right shops, the Belgian designers as well, and take them along there. And those personal shoppers would go. And so we did plan to fill their free time. There was only a few that really didn't use those services. But in their mind, they created half of their time in the destination themselves. And for every individual, it was a different experience. Communication, as I mentioned before, is very important. The qualification and the rule structure. If it's not correct, it's a danger that it may become a disincentive, and people will start envying each other. I see that a lot of people are making notes, but I'm sharing this presentation with you, so afterwards I will give a copy to Mauricio, and it can be shared with everybody who's attended here today, so don't you worry about that. Communication and management buy-in, very strong kickoff of the program. And it's critical that constantly you go back to the participants. Now we have a tool nowadays which makes it this very easy. Now everybody has mobile devices, everybody has iPhones and Samsungs and whatever we have. There's apps, and every program you can constantly nowadays monitor through your app where you're standing. They do not need to wait anymore till the company reports back. They can have a live version of where they stand. But the same app is a communication tool to remind them, to bring up some ideas. We had a Canadian group last summer who sent out a message every week on Friday. They had, like, before the weekend started, they sent out a message to their audience with something interesting about the country where they were going to. It was about culture, about sports, about history, but every week they send out an interesting fact about Belgium in that case. So constantly those updates are creating a buzz and are a motivating factor on its own for an incentive program. Measurement is important, not only for the targets, but also measurement for the effectiveness of an incentive program. We need to measure ourselves how effective our incentive was. As there's a lot of DMCs in the room here, you need to measure yourself how effective you have been in the whole process of that incentive trip design. And you can do that with service with the client, or service together with the incentive agent, if it is an incentive agent, or corporation, because there's lots of corporations that nowadays run their own incentive program. But make sure that you get feedback. That's the only way that you will be able to do better even the next time. It also gives you a better insight in the thinking process of clients and in the changing trends in what people want to experience. So it's not a bad thing in the creation of an incentive program to immediately implement the participants, especially directly after or at the end of an incentive program in the destination, to seek their feedback and to implement new ideas, new thoughts, new trends into the programming of next year. So it's no longer next year we went to Hawaii this year, next year we go to Bangkok. No. This is where it's extremely important in modern incentive programs that you involve the participants in deciding which destination they want to go for in the future. And you can only do that if you survey them. I'll skip this one. Generation XYZ and all the other ones. There used to be a time that everybody in the incentive group was of the same age and of the same level in an organization. Nowadays, with the structure that we have in companies, every incentive program has different generational groups. And most incentive programs now, you will find people from 3 different generations in a program. It's important that the program that you design appeals not to everyone, but some elements in the program will appeal to specific generations of the group that's coming. So from a destination perspective, from a DMC perspective, when you create your offer, when you're getting an RFP from a company or an organization, is this the meaning that I have to stop? No. So you need to, now I lost it. There must be activities for every generation there. And especially when you design programs with a lot of free time, that's allowing you to appeal to those different generations. So then finally, you're ready. You direct your program. With directing, I mean manage the event. It's very much about attracting the right partners for a program, the right activity partners, the right restaurant, the right experience partners, and really immerse them into your program. This is not a picture from me 14 years ago when I was here, although I was doing that. I did the Pakware rafting, fantastic. I recommend it to 1,000 people since then. But you need to make it happen. I had to step into that boat. You call it a boat? Raft. I needed to step into that raft as well and learn. That was my first rafting experience, by the way. So it was fantastic. My second one was in Austria, and I can tell you the water was much, much colder there. So make it happen. And here in the production, you constantly need to guide all your partners. You need to monitor how it's going. Recognize immediately good work. Don't wait till the end to thank your partners or your suppliers. Do it immediately. Some of you have probably read the book, The 1 Minute Manager. For me, it has been an important book, which was, I think, written like 30 years ago. But for me, the constant recognition. Also reprimand if something doesn't work. Do it immediately. But that's the only way that you can better a program. Right. If you're ready to design a program, we have some more sessions coming up later, so we'll have some exercises as well. And the way that you want to sell it, we have some inspiration for you this afternoon So if you want to learn more, some of the stuff that I'm teaching for site to many audiences around the world, I always try to create an article out of it as well, and I'm posting those articles on my LinkedIn. So if you're not connected yet, a few of you are, but go to my LinkedIn or ask a connection with me on LinkedIn. And you will see some articles which are topics that I've been talking about. Same thing for Facebook, I'm posting there as well. And actually, it just happens to be, this is by accident, but when I posted that article, it's a hotel here in Costa Rica. That's you? I got a picture from Jane Halsey. Yeah? And Twitter feeds, I'm every day on Twitter, so I was tweeting earlier on about this. Now I'm here because my company allows me to. Site is not my full-time job. When you're site president, you spend about 30% of your year on the organization. That is true. When you're a chapter president, you spend about 10% of your year on it. I'm here because my company MCI, and most particularly my friends and team with Ovation, allow me to. So we're a global DMC organization, and if you need any help abroad, you can reach out to me as well. Now, next time that you will see several of us will be in Rome. In Rome, we have the next Site International Conference coming up in January, second week of January. And if you don't do Rome and you want to go for some warmer weather, you must wait for the next year, then we go to Thailand. So that's it from me for the time being. Do you have any questions you want to ask now? Don't be shy like the people in China. They never ask questions there. I'm sure that there's more questions here.
Chiquillos, no se queden sin preguntar. ¿Preguntas? No lo puedo creer.
It's impossible. I've been that clear? No. That's
You have never had an audience without questions?
I'll be around for the rest of the day, so if you want to ask me personally, or Julia, we're both here. See. The craziest one was...
Or difficult, not crazy, but difficult, well, challenging.
When I managed the Bruges Convention Bureau, Bruges is my hometown in Belgium. Some people call me like Brujo de Brujas. But when I managed that bureau, we had a Japanese client, Sumitomo Bank, not to name them, who was on the site inspection and who wanted a dinner served on the top of the bell tower, of the Belfry Tower in Bruges. The tower is 83 meters high, and it's 365 steps, and they wanted to have a 5-star dinner there.
With no elevator?
No elevator. We did it. It cost them a lot of money.
For how many people?
2. It was just the top producer. That's maybe the craziest one that I can. But I've seen other crazy stuff. That's for sure.
But how did you do it?
Well, a friend of mine is a caterer there, and he brought everything up in advance, as they do catering normally. But in this case, he couldn't. Well, the good thing is his shop is next to the Belfry, so that made it easy. But they took up everything, the waiters, in advance there, and then the finishing touch came at the last moment. But 365 steps is the same as the number of days in a year. That's very sportive. So. Okay, thank you.
After a program, it's really important to get feedback.
Yes.
back from your clients, but I've noticed that it's really difficult to get it from them. So how would you recommend to invite them, or when is appropriate moment to ask them? Because mainly me as in sales, I'm not there on site with them when the program is finished. So when the program is done and I'm emailing the client, it's really difficult to get the feedback from them.
Yeah.
So how would you invite them, or when is appropriate moment to do it, so that you get
the
that
best moment
feedback?
is during the event itself, during the operation itself. So the person who's of your company, if you're a hotelier or DMC, ask them during the operation. You get so much information back. You can even adapt during the operation what is going on for that group. But you can get a lot of feedback at that moment and know how to adapt. And that pass on that feedback to your intermediate client as well. It's very important. The same thing, you can get new ideas for the upcoming year. And if you're working like we do, and Mauricio is our partner for Ovation here in Costa Rica, but you can pick up information for your colleagues. So if you're in a group, in an organization, in a network, that's where you can sell on your colleague, your friends on the other side. And if everybody does the same thing, we all win through this. It's actually one of the points in our standard operating procedures.
Yes.
Okay. Good, thank you very much.